Shalom from oneforisrael.org. Happiness is something people pursue their entire lives, and in the process are willing to spend much time, energy, and money to reach that goal. But what is true happiness, and can it truly be found? You might be at this very moment in your life in total despair and frustration from what life has offered you so far, and even carrying hurt and anger, which are the very opposite to happiness. Gladly, the Bible has much to say about happiness and how it is truly found. The weekly reading portion from the book of Deuteronomy this week, called Re'eh in Hebrew, which means see or behold, speaks exactly about this matter. You might even be surprised that the topic of happiness even appears in the book of Deuteronomy, since most of us think that this part of the Old Testament only deals with commandments and warnings given from a distant and unkind God to some ancient people group called Israel. Consider these verses for a moment. You shall rejoice, you and your households, in all that you undertake, in which the Lord your God has blessed you. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God, you and your sons and your daughters, your male servants and your female servants, and the Levite that is within your towns. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God in all that you undertake. And you shall eat there before the Lord your God and rejoice, you and your household. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God, you and your son and your daughter, your male servant and your female servant, the Levite who is within your towns, the sojourner, the fatherless, and the widow who are among you, at the place that the Lord your God will choose to make his name dwell there. In our portion alone this week, the word rejoice appears 7 times and is more references to joy or rejoicing than the entire Pentateuch together. It begs the question, what does Israel have so much to rejoice about that even the servants, the fatherless, and the widows are part of? The answer is that Israel has a lot to thank God for. As they are getting prepared for entry into the Promised Land, Moses is reminding Israel that God in His mercy and love chose them and redeemed them from the slavery in Egypt, faithfully wandered with them, providing their needs for the past 40 years in the wilderness, and has given them the laws and commandments for a healthy and blessed life, which includes rights even for the slaves, the fatherless, and the widows. And if this is not enough, the context of the verses we just looked at explain that God is also about to bring Israel to their own land, where they will be able to live and cultivate the land and be a free people, no longer in bondage to Egypt. And the climax of our passage also reveals to Israel that God is about to drive out all the idolatry work from the Promised Land and choose a place for Himself to be worshipped and served through the sacrifices and feasts. It is a beautiful prophetic picture of an entire nation gathered as families, even with the strangers and servants of the land, and enjoying fellowship and worship of their God during the biblical feasts. As Jews and Gentiles following Yeshua the Messiah, this is a clear reminder to us why we have all the reasons in the world to rejoice, even if life seems tough at times, and what true happiness really is. We have been chosen, redeemed from idols and sin, forgiven and welcomed into a right relationship with the God of Israel, who has also provided our needs faithfully until this very day. It is actually interesting to see that in the Hebrew grammar, the word rejoice is written as a command and not a feeling that can pass any moment, which explains why Paul in Philippians 4 says, "Rejoice in the Lord always." Again, I will say, rejoice. I want to encourage you to make a decision today to rejoice and remember all that God has done for you. Let me conclude by asking you, are you longing for happiness but can't seem to find it in money, pleasure, or any other thing the world is offering you today? The key to true and lasting happiness is found in someone who is bigger than you and me, someone who has laid down his life for you and is waiting for you to turn to him to receive love, forgiveness, and joy. That is all for this week, but please join us next week for another installment of 5 Alive. Wishing you God Shalom from One for Israel, and don't forget to share.
Our ministry, One for Israel, is an initiative of native-born Israelis on the forefront of media and high-tech evangelism, boldly proclaiming salvation to Israel. Raising up leaders, and equipping them with the tools they need to transform our communities. We also provide humanitarian aid to Holocaust survivors with the love of Yeshua. Join us as we share the gospel in Israel. Become one for Israel.